Can you have a quick walk us through of the structure that they're proposing? Because I've seen Network Rail described as the IRB. I've seen GBR described as the IRB. And I must admit, I was pretty confused for a while. I'm not sure whether my confusion has been totally eliminated, but...
Oh, right, well, let's have a go, shall we?
Go on, let's...
I can understand why you're a bit confused. It does feel a bit... It is a little bit... it's a bit... I think it's a bit confusing, right? So, and I'm not saying that I'm the fount of knowledge here on this, but this is how I read it.
Okay.
So, one bit of context. So today, to be allowed to run the network... the kind of the operating entity within Network Rail, which is called Network Rail Infrastructure Limited, has a thing called a network license, which is granted by the Secretary of State under, happens to be Section 8 of the Railways Act 1993. Okay, so Network Rail's got the license. Network Rail Infrastructure Limited's got the license. So that's the background. So what this bill will do is it will create what they call an integrated rail body, which I take to mean what we label Great British Railways. I think that is a brand name for what this integrated rail body is. It will be established as the strategic decision-making body for railways in Great Britain. It will be responsible for exercising the functions of a franchising authority, right, and an infrastructure manager, and will be required to fulfill a range of functions and duties through its network license. Okay, and it then goes on to explain it is the government's intention that Network Rail Infrastructure Limited, the Network Rail company that's currently got that license, will be designated as the new integrated rail body, right? And they'll revoke its old license and give it a new one, which is a kind of, I suppose, a bit of window dressing, really. So from a legal point of view, Network Rail Infrastructure Limited will effectively become the integrated rail body, and it will have a license to operate the network as it currently does. It'll just be a new one, and it will carry out the franchising function as well. Some people have said that means Network Rail's in charge, right? Now, Network Rail will be at great pains, and rightly so, to say, hang on. I mean, Andrew Haynes has said, this is not Network Rail 2.0, because a lot of this is about culture and it's about changing the way we do things. And he's right, okay? So there's a slight conflict between the legal reality and what they want to do with it.
I want to comment on that in a minute. Can I just ask you something, though? Are you saying that GBR and Network Rail Infrastructure Limited, or Network Rail, are going to be brought together under one roof, branded GBR? So will the Network Rail brand disappear?
Well, that's a very good question. So I don't know the answer to that. It does, the way I read it, they want the brand Great British Railways, and they are going to create an integrated rail body, which for all intents and purposes does exactly what we've always been led to believe that Great British Railways was going to do. So that's why I take the view they're one and the same thing. So, and Network Rail's license, Network Rail Infrastructure Limited, will be the integrated rail body. So it's a bit confusing, but the way I read it is that GBR will take the bit of Network Rail that is the Infrastructure Limited bit, and it will do the franchising bit and bring it all together as a single integrated rail body. Now, what happens to Network Rail's name, I don't know.
I mean, is it too much of a leap to say that what we're looking at there is almost like a British Rail Board 2, which will take instruction from the government on what kind of railway they want and the amount of budget, and those two organisations, however they're wrapped up and presented, will go away and do it?
Well, that could well be it. And who knows, that's not necessarily a bad thing, is it?